I travel a lot. I know, it's pretty shocking given the content on this channel. Now this of course involves flying in an airplane. But would you believe that I used to be like deathly afraid of flying? Like the thought of going to an airport and boarding a plane would make me really anxious. Now I admit I still have some apprehensions. It's never always smooth sailing, especially in circumstances like heavy turbulence. But I want to make this video to try and help anyone out there who's still feeling uneasy about being in a metal tube 35,000 feet above the ground. So first of all, this isn't going to be a comprehensive guide to address each of your concerns individually and all of your fears. I don't have the time to do that. But I'll just provide, if I can, a framework and some steps that you can take to feel more comfortable in the air. Also in the events leading up to being in the air. I'm going to start with the most basic technique that involves learning. Knowledge really is power in this situation. A lot of our apprehensions come from not knowing or not having a great understanding of what's going on. We also may not know about the safety of air travel, or just being overcome with the psychological aspect of being in the air, what we're seeing outside of that window and the bumps that we feel. However, I know that if you tell someone who's afraid of flying that, hey, driving a car is way more dangerous, that doesn't make us less afraid. We already know that. What really gets to us is the lack of control more than anything. When we're driving a car, we're in control and we feel that. When we're on a plane, we don't have that control. So what I think is helpful is to think about how safe air travel actually is and the regulations and the training that go into becoming a pilot. I'd reckon that learning about the safety of flying and turbulence are two great ways to start. When we have that knowledge, it puts us more in control. Not over the plane itself, but over our emotions. It's really helpful to be aware of our surroundings and what's going on. When we know that, we can get through it. Education is so important, and by that I mean, let's start with the basics, and then you may find out it's actually interesting. So we start from the very bottom up, learn about how a plane works, how it even gets in the air. What are some safety features on your ordinary aircraft? How are pilots regulated and trained and retrained? You can even learn some more advanced stuff like the various phases of takeoff and what the pilots do in their pre-takeoff checks, their pre-landing checks, and you'll find that they're actually checking the plane periodically throughout the flight to make sure everything's okay. It's also cool to find out how they do calculations, such as fuel calculations and whatnot. You can even watch pilot instructional videos yourself. Just indulge in the content. Now there are a lot of sounds and sensations that we might encounter that could freak us out because we don't know what each and every one of those things are. Take for example flying out of Newark, my home airport. I recently learned that flying out of Newark can be pretty scary because we have these noise regulations over the wealthier neighborhoods, so I learned that the pilots have to do some sort of maneuver with the thrusts, and it's something that the passengers can feel, but it makes the airplane quieter. Another sensation that I get during takeoff, and a lot of people do, is when the plane levels out, when the pitch of the nose changes. It feels like you're falling, it can cause some lightheadedness, some uneasiness, but really it's just the change of the pitch of the nose. Next up is turbulence. This is probably the most unsettling for some people, but it's just like driving in the car. The air has bumps, just like the bumps in the road, and it's not any more dangerous. In fact, the plane isn't moving any more than several feet up and down. However, from experience, I know that this information is still not enough to ease people's fears. What I can tell you is that your plane is built to withstand much more turbulence, much heavier turbulence, than you'll ever encounter on planet Earth. Pilots do avoid flying into heavy turbulence. It's not exactly a safety issue, but more of a comfort issue. You really don't want to do that on purpose, you know? It's really uncomfortable for the passengers, it's uncomfortable for the pilots, but it's not going to bring down an aircraft. However, pilots will generally avoid really obvious storm systems, obvious cumulus clouds. Furthermore, what pilots actually do during turbulence can be as simple as turning on the fasten seatbelt sign, and that's pretty much it. Maybe if it looks like it's going to last for a while, they'll call ground control. I don't know if you call it ground control, not at the airports, but like when you're in the middle of airports. You know, they'll ask for a smoother route. As far as, planes getting struck by lightning, it happens all the time. And for flying in the winter, you're up there, the air is cold. There's a lot of de-icing that goes on the ground and during the flight. Now, if you want to learn more about what goes on during a flight, there are plenty of apps out there to help you. They can even offer you daily turbulence maps and pilot reports. The one that I used was called SOAR, S-O-A-R. It's really cool to use in flight too. It has a tool that lets you know what the plane's G-force is during the flight. And it helps to know that your plane can withstand much more G-force than what you're going to encounter on your flight. Now, if you're like me, when you're on a plane, you probably can't sleep. I usually take a sleep aid if I feel like it's going to be a longer trip and it might be unsettling for me. I actually like flying earlier in the morning for this reason. It's usually a smoother ride and it can help get back to sleep. It's just like going back to bed when I sleep on a plane in that situation. It's like I'm grateful to be in a cramped space with at least somewhere to put my head and close my eyes. Though I do understand how difficult it is to find sleep on a plane. It's rare for me. I flew to Germany overnight and I didn't sleep more than 45 minutes, and it was very light sleep too. Another thing to do to apply your education is to pay close attention to what's going on in your flight. This can start before the plane even leaves the gate. Listen for the sounds. The cargo doors closing, the fluids running through the tubes, engines powering up. Look at the wings and how they open and close, and how they wobble when the plane shakes, and realize that this is what they were designed to do. That's a good thing. If they didn't bend like that, they would probably break off. Finally, some things that really help me out before a trip is to watch the planes go by over my house, or to look at a flight tracker website. You could see tens of thousands of planes flying over the world right now, and each of those planes is going to take off and land at their destination with no issue. And this happens every day, most days out of the year. In fact, almost all days out of the year, year after year. It's true that on rare occasions, this does not happen. Now, while unfortunate, any crash documentary will tell you, after air disasters happen, they always end on a positive note to tell you how the problem was fixed, what technology updates were put into place, what pilot protocol was put into place, other safety protocol. Flying is safe, but it is complicated, and it helps to remember that aircraft disasters used to be way more common than they are today. We should be pretty grateful to live in this time where we've learned so much about the mistakes of the past. Now, learning about flying, learning about its safety and the environmental aspects such as lightning and turbulence can really go a long way to make your experience, and thus your trip, more enjoyable. As always, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe below, and keep staying knowledgeable.